Let's speak about Antarctica on Earth. As you know, Vibes of Cosmos, the moon is the inverted mirror X-ray selfie of the Earth. And let's speak about Antarctica specifically. As you know, Antarctica is not the continent you see on the spinning ball with curved water, nor is it what you see on the Gleason map. But let's speak about the stations, the scientific military station, which are forbidden because you cannot go in a straight line beyond the Antarctica Treaty, which is geopolitics military, enforced in 1961 and expires in 2045. Now, as you can see, the areas which are blue and green, that's where the sun is, so the sun of this world, then Mercury, the first circle, and then Venus, and the white areas are the ice age or the frozen areas, which makes sense, as you're going to see. I've just inverted the picture because we're going to start from South America, right? So this is South America, this is North America and South America. And as you can see, South America, which ends in Argentina and Chile, and there's a huge here forbidden to go beyond, right? And let's go to the first stations, which are like the typical, you know, here we are not allowed to go from South America in a straight line, only the military goes. So the first stations are these ones. Just going to make sure that you can read. Accumulation on Fireland. As you can see here, the Vibes of Cosmos has put the Antarctica continent as we know of it, so we can get a bit of a guidance. We understand that everything which surrounds the south, so the circle is Antarctica. So these red dots represent the first stations from South America on the continent of Fireland, because you can see Fireland is here divided into two parts. This part where the sun operates is their life is possible because it's green and warm, and this side here, which is the snowy icy side, is where the stations are, and it's frozen. That's why they show us the pictures of the frozen stations. We have Dr. Guillermo base. We have I can't read Is Patron base, so Isa Patron base. We have this is King George Island. We have the Polar Station, or the Mendel Polar Station, the General Bernard base, the Esperanza base, and the Machu Picchu base. So these are the ones that are on the edges of on this side of the Fireland continent, on the frozen side, close to the border between the sun of this world and Mercury. And then if you move on these, as you can see here, on the other continent, which is called Lakac, there's two more bases, which is the Halley Research Station and the Belgrano base on this continent. And there's nothing else on Galeka as far as we know. So these are the closest ones to South America, and this is Lemuria here. So from South America, these are the bases here, and these two here. Now let's move on. From the continent of Lemuria, of course, it's also forbidden to go. As you can see, Lakac and Galeka are pretty much most of them frozen, although there's a part which is not frozen, no ice age. And moving along, I've seen something here. So there's some islands, and you get to this part here, which is New Zealand. So we have the continent of New Zealand. Let me show. This is Australia, this is Tasmania, and this is New Zealand. So again, from New Zealand, you also have some interesting places, stations, which is the most famous ones, the Zucchini station, and the most famous of all, the McMurdo station, which is close to the Ross Archipelago, which is forbidden for you and me to go. Now, this is where the so-called Gate of the Sun is. When it's summer in New Zealand and Australia, and the sun is close here, because of Mercury being close here, the ice here melts more than usual. There's still ice, but less. So with the icebreakers and with the helicopters and with the UFOs, electromagnetic, or the submarines, it's easier to cross from New Zealand, from this area. So that's why McMurdo Station, I guess the Americans are here. Makes perfect sense. You're super close. You're still on the frozen area of Antarctica, but you're super close to the Gate of the Sun, which is forbidden for you and me. So you can cross with your ships and with your UFOs and with your submarines onto the Mercury area. And of course, as you cross here, you already have these wonderful continents, which half of the continents are possible for life, just like in our world. Half are frozen and half are good for life. And that's it. So these are the only stations close to New Zealand, unfortunately. But we have one more close to Tasmania, which is close to Australia. And close to Tasmania, you have the Dumont D'Urville station on this island here, which is pretty much almost as big as Tasmania. And this continent here is called Zealand. precisely because New Zealand is actually part of this bigger archipelago of islands. So when the ice age moves to a different place, then all of these Zealand, the actual Zealand is this continent here. So New Zealand is just a bit part, and that's why in the very south of New Zealand it's very cold, because you're close to the Antarctica treaty limits. Now, so the last station from Tasmania is here in Australia, and then we have one more from Australia in a straight line. So for example, if you go from Albany or like from Perth, or from the south of Australia, you go in a straight line, which you're not allowed to do. You get to Casey Station, another station, which is part of this. It makes sense, right, to have it like this distributed. And then we start with the huge, amazing South Indian Ocean, and then there's nothing. Let me just move this back like this, because now we've gone on to Australia, and there's nothing. As you can see from Casey Station, there's no other bases and stations, because there's no continents, there's no islands here. Everything is frozen until we reach a very amazing point. See Antarctica. This line here is the Antarctica Treaty, and we reach a point here. You see, this is also Antarctica, but there's no, as I can see, there's no bases in Pattalia. There might be, but on this map, nothing shows. There's a volcano, and nothing else shows in Pattalia until we reach here from South Africa. So this is South Africa, and it makes sense that in a straight line, which is also forbidden, you get to this continent, which is the huge continent of Pangaea. And look at this. We have Princess Elizabeth Station. I guess this is from the UK, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So it makes sense, right? From South Africa in a straight line, from Cape Town, if you would go in a straight line, you get exactly in a straight line to Princess Elizabeth Station, which is, of course, on the frozen continent of Pangaea. If this is true, then Pangaea is all frozen, with the exception of this bit here, which is part of Mercury. And let's move on. I don't think I see any bases here. No, there's no bases here. Let's see if on Pangaea, besides the Princess Elizabeth Station on the coast, if we have, yes, we do. Look at this. So this one is Novolazareskaya Station, which is, of course, Russia, from Russian. See, the Russians have explored a lot more, and they came all the way from, it makes sense, because, from the African countries, which are poor countries, because they're maintained poor, the Russians explore freely, and they get here. So then we have also here two stations, which are called Tor Station and Troll Station. Now, who do they belong to? I have no idea. They're fairly close. Well, fairly close. They're closer to the Russian base, Novolazareskaya. Now, let's move a bit more. We don't have any base here on Fildenia, which is the closest continent to Africa, and I can't see anything here. Oh, yes, and then we move on. Also on Pangaea, on the other side of Atlantis. We have Africa, Atlantis, and on the other side of Atlantis, also in the frozen areas of Pangaea, we have Numair Station 3. I think this is a 3. Numair Station number 3. And that's on the, it makes sense to be right. From Atlantis, you get onto the coast, closer to the ocean, in the Kronos Ocean. Now let's see if there's anything else inside the Pangaea continent, which I don't see any red dots. Might be mistaken, because my eyes are right now insanely moving in my head. But yeah, that's the last region here, the last station. So moving, I'm sorry, I've just jumped. The last station, moving up. Let's see if there's any. Cyclops has nothing. I can't see anything on these coasts. Careful, nothing. Nothing on Atlantis either, on this map. I can't see any bases on Atlantis, which means that Atlantis is probably with people, the Atlanteans, which they're not allowing us to be there. And there's nothing on Fuego. As you can see, it's still Antarctica, but there's nothing on Fuego, no station here. This is the Pleiades archipelago, which is where the people they invented the whole thing with the aliens from Pleiades, which is north of Atlantis. And it seems that was the last one. There's no other station here. I can't see any red dot here. Nothing here. And then there's the ocean. So that's it. And then, of course, here I can't see any dots. And we move back. We go back to South America. So there's still some stations missing, which I'm going to show you on a different map, but you get the point, right? Now you understand what Antarctica is and why the stations of Antarctica are on the frozen areas. And the most important one, I guess, is McMurdo, which is exactly at the edges of the well, beyond, because the Antarctica Treaty ends here, and McMurdo is here, which is close to the sun gate, or the gate of the sun, because we have the sun of this world and Mercury, which is like the sun, and you exit stage right or stage left, and you get to this wonderful continent here, which I have no clue who lives there. So I hope this makes sense, and of course thanks to Vibes of Cosmos for illuminating and for helping me to understand, thanks to the information that he's published over the years on his website, which is very cheap, by the way. So see you in the next video.